I really want your comment on this, because this one drives me crazy, Bill. And because you're the life insurance expert, I need you to just slice this up factually and put this one to bed once and for all. Got a call the other day, and the guy says, well, I'm considering index universal life or et cetera with a cash value so I can get tax-free income.
Oh, sure.
Now that's a neat sales pitch, but the IRS hasn't approved that. When you take money out of a bank, and you get a loan from a bank, that's not income. When you take money out of a life insurance policy, if I'm not mistaken, Bill, that's a loan. That's not income. Am I right about that?
Yeah, that's why it's tax-free, because it's a loan. So go
It's
to
a
the bank
loan.
today. Go to the bank today and borrow $1 million. Loan your son or daughter some money today. Nobody's paying tax on those loans.
That's
why
not
it's
income. But
tax-free.
when agents and advisors semantically and play these word games saying tax-free income, the trusting public is saying, well, that sounds good, Martha. That's fantastic. I love tax-free. I don't want to pay taxes. It's a loan.
Well, here's a couple of things that are going on. First of all, it's semantics, number one. Number two, it is true to a degree. That's the important part. It is true to a degree.
They're nibbling around the edges, though, Bill. You know that.
Right. No. Let me explain what's going on. So I see some things that they're all right, and I see some things that you just want to scream. I'll give you an example of one I saw the other day. I get a lot of referrals from CPAs. Okay.
Sure.
And so he said, Bill, look at this client's analysis. He was going to pay a premium for 10 years. 2 years later, he was going to borrow or withdraw 90% of what he paid into the policy back as what's called a withdrawal. That's not taxable because it's your cost basis. Then he was going to wait another 5 years and take out of that policy something like 15% of the cash value every year for the next 30 years. And I went over that with a CPA, and I said, this is mathematically impossible. And the CPA looked at it, and he goes, well, where do these numbers even, and I said, yeah, it's all smoke and mirrors, right?
Absolutely.
So beyond what you're saying, some of these illustrations just aren't even mathematically possible. But here's what's going on. Listen, pay these premiums into these policies. That's after-tax money. It's going to go into these policies, and the index is going to return all these wonderful rates of return because
that aren't guaranteed. None of that's guaranteed.
Well, if the index goes up, you're going to get credit, and if the index goes down, you're not going to lose anything. So, the market did 18% last year, and I'm only projecting 7% for you. So, you're going to do really good.
Oh my gosh.
Now, let's ignore the fact that the market fell 40% in 08, and let's ignore the fact that okay, we're going to ignore that reality. Okay,
yeah, exactly.
Now you get X years down the road, and you've got all these wonderful policy values, and you're going to take tax-free income from the policy. Now, why is it tax-free? Well, because in the early years, you're not taking a loan, you're taking a withdrawal. And the reason it's a withdrawal is because that's considered a return of your principal. So that's not taxable. So once you withdraw down to your principal, now you start taking loans, because if you don't take loans and you take withdrawals, and now you're getting into the gain of the policy. And if it wasn't a loan, that would be taxable. Okay, sounds good. So I'm going to take a loan from this policy. Hey, what's not to like? Okay, well, sorry, but because it's a loan, there's interest on that loan.
Correct.
And you either pay the loan interest in cash, which nobody wants to do, or if that's okay, you know what, don't pay that interest back. We'll just take the interest out of the policy value. So now what happens is not only do you have the amount that you borrowed, but it's increasing by the interest that you're not paying out of pocket. So that doesn't sound like a big deal. Let's say that the interest is, let's be easy and say it's 3%. Okay. You borrow $100,000 in year one. Yeah, what the heck, right? It's 103. My loan's 103 with interest. What's the big deal? It's only $3,000. It's not a big deal until you add the second year's 100,000 on it, and the third year's 100,000, and the fourth year. Now all of a sudden, and keep in mind, interest, it's compounded, not simple. So by the time you've taken 10 loans out of the policy, now that's $30,000 plus the interest on the interest that you haven't been paid. Now what happens? Oh, wait a minute. Weren't we talking about the market fell, so your gains or your credits on your cash value growth isn't what you anticipated? Aren't we talking about interest rates have been falling lately? So all those original projections from 20 years ago that the interest alone was going to be six rate. Oh, wait a minute. Every year there's a cost of insurance they take away from that policy. And
Mm-hmm.
you mean to tell me that the board of directors can increase that cost of insurance at will? And they do? So how do you think when a policy that you bought 20 years ago had a minimum guaranteed rate of 5% on the cash value, and they can't get 5% on their investment portfolio? Oh, yeah, I know how we can fix that. We'll increase the cost of insurance on this class of policies. Ooh, now not only are you're paying interest on your loans, but now you got higher costs coming out, so your cash value is decreasing at an increasing rate. Okay, so some people say, yeah. So listen, I thought I was going to take that loan out for 10 years or 15 years, but because of all the stuff you're telling me, I'll only take it out for 8 years. Well, wait a minute. What happens is when you quit taking that loan out, that loan's balance still exists and they still are charging you interest. And if you don't pay the interest and that policy, what I call cannibalizes itself,
Right.
then what happens is the policy collapses of its own weight, for lack of a better explanation.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something called a forgiven loan because when that policy lapses without value, the loan you've borrowed, you don't have to pay it back. They forgive it. Yeah, you took a policy out, all that money. There's no more money left to support the policy, so the policy lapses. You don't have to pay us back. That's okay. But they give you a 1099 because it's a forgiven loan. And a forgiven loan is taxable as ordinary income. So
Wow.
if you've got $1 million that you've borrowed out of that policy over the last 10 years, accumulated interest on top of it and everything else, this year you've got $1 million of phantom income that is subject to income tax. Now, what state do you live in? Well, if you live in Florida, okay, it's only 37%. Because let me guess, let's both agree that if you got $1 million loan that's forgiven that you get a 1099 for, it's probably going to throw you into the maximum tax bracket. I think we can
Sure.
both agree on that.
Absolutely.
Now, what if you live in another state like California, like New York, or other high tax state? That costs you $500,000. Ouch,
Wow.
right? Ouch.
Wow.
Hey, Stan the Annuity Man here. Did you like that little taste of my podcast, Fun with Annuities? Hey, if you want to see the full version, click the link and watch the whole darn thing. Remember, Fun with Annuities. Living the reality, not the dream.